The year is 1975, and this is Gary Dahl. He's a freelance copywriter in Northern California, mid-30s and struggling to pay the bills. He has no fame, no fortune, and absolutely no idea that in exactly 6 months, he is about to become filthy rich. Not from real estate, not from the stock market, not from inventing some groundbreaking technology. No, Gary Dahl is about to make millions of dollars selling rocks. This is the dumbest rags to riches story in history. It starts the way most terrible ideas start, at a bar. Gary Dahl is sitting with friends, listening to them complain about their pets.
My dog needs regular walk, man.
Cat destroyed the furniture. Vet bills are piling up, man.
The usual chaos of pet ownership, and Gary makes an absurd joke.
Pets are too much trouble. I've got the perfect pet. A pet rock. No feeding, no cleanup, no mess.
Everyone laughs. The joke should die right there. Most people tell a joke and move on with their lives. But Gary Dahl isn't like most people. Something about the phrase pet rock lodges itself in his brain. The gears start turning, and he begins to think something that most sane people would immediately dismiss. What if this wasn't a joke? What if he actually sold pet rocks? But here's the problem. How do you sell people something that is literally lying on the ground everywhere? How do you take a bar joke and turn it into an actual product? The answer, it turns out, is that you don't sell the rock. You sell the idea of the rock. Gary Dahl understands something fundamental about marketing. People don't buy products. They buy stories. They buy jokes. They buy the feeling of being in on something. So he gets to work treating this ridiculous concept with an alarming level of professionalism. First, the rock itself. He doesn't just grab any rock. He sources smooth, rounded stones from Mexican beaches, presentable, respectable, the kind of rock you could introduce to your parents. Then comes the packaging, and this is where the joke becomes genius. He designs a small cardboard carrying case, like a pet carrier, with ventilation holes punched in the sides, for the rock to breathe, obviously. Inside he adds a bed of straw, because even a rock deserves comfort. And then he writes the instruction manual. It's called The Care and Training of Your Pet Rock. Entirely serious. The manual explains that your rock doesn't need food, doesn't need water, will never run away, and never bite. Then it gets into training commands. Sit. Perfect. Your rock is natural. Stay. Flawless execution every time. Roll over. May require some effort on your part. Attack. Simply throw the rock. The whole thing is written without a hint of irony, no winking at the camera. That's the joke. It pretends it's not a joke. But there is still one massive problem. Gary Dahl has created the perfect parody product, but now he has to convince stores to sell it. And more importantly, he has to convince people to buy it. Gary Dahl makes a decision that most financial advisors would call absolutely insane. He scrapes together $10,000, his savings, small investments from people who believe in him, or at least find the whole thing entertaining enough to throw money at. $10,000 to sell rocks. He orders stones in bulk. He prints cardboard boxes. This man is spending serious money on something that could very easily become the most expensive joke he's ever told. The first pet rocks are assembled by hand in his living room. Dahl and a few helpers stuffing straw into boxes hour after hour. If anyone walked in at that moment and asked what he was doing, the honest answer would be,
gambling my financial future on whether Americans will pay money for a rock in a box.
But here's where timing matters. It's 1975. The novelty gift market is booming. Mood rings, lava lamps. The pet rock fits perfectly into this landscape, except it's also quietly mocking the entire concept of consumer culture. Dahl starts pitching. Some buyers think he's joking, some think he's insane, but enough of them think, you know what? This is weird enough that it might actually work. The pet rocks start appearing in stores, and then the media notices. First, articles, then talk shows, and then the big one, Gary Dahl gets booked on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Millions of people watch this man calmly explain his pet rocks as if he's done something completely normal. The audience laughs, Johnny Carson laughs, the entire country laughs, and then they start buying. How many people could possibly want to buy a rock in a box? The answer is a lot. Within weeks, pet rocks are selling faster than Gary Dahl can produce them. Within months, he's sold over 1 million units. Each pet rock sells for about $4. His cost per unit, the rock, the box, the straw, the booklet, is pennies. The profit margins are absurd because, and this cannot be stressed enough, he is selling rocks. Let's just take a moment to process the timeline here. 6 months ago, this man was sitting in a bar making a joke about lazy pet ownership. 3 months ago, he was in his living room, assembling cardboard boxes, wondering if he'd made a catastrophic mistake. Now, he's selling 15,000 pet rocks per day. He's doing media tours, giving interviews. Newspapers are calling him a marketing genius. He has become essentially the rock baron of 1975. Store shelves can barely keep them in stock. They are the hot Christmas gift of the season. America is experiencing a collective moment of deciding that yes, paying $4 for a rock in a box makes perfect sense. Gary Dahl becomes a millionaire. But here's the thing about building an empire on a joke. Eventually, the punchline stops being funny. By early 1976, something inevitable happens. The craze peaks, and then it stops. See, the pet rock has a fundamental problem as a business model. Everyone who wants one has bought one. And you don't really need a second pet rock. The rock doesn't break. It doesn't wear out. It doesn't develop new features. It just sits there, being a rock. The market becomes saturated instantly. Knockoffs appear. But it doesn't matter because the fad itself is dying. Retailers move on. The media stops calling. The pet rock goes from national phenomenon to remember that thing in the blink of an eye. Gary Dahl winds down production. He isn't going broke. He's already made his millions. But the pet rock era is officially over. So what happens to Gary Dahl? He goes back to advertising. He runs his own agency. He lives comfortably in California. He didn't cure a disease. He didn't revolutionize technology. He told a joke, refused to let it die, packaged it beautifully, and sold it to a country that was ready to laugh along with him. Sometimes the best ideas are just jokes that someone had the audacity to take seriously. Gary Dahl turned a bar joke into millions of dollars. And that is the dumbest rags to riches story in history. Thanks for watching.